Hello everybody, my name is Walnut, and welcome back to the StarCraft casts. Today we have a PvZ between two diamond players, CrasT and JonFurniss. Those are some pretty sweet names, let's be real here. Whoops. There we go. It's been a little while, I'm back in the saddle. It's been a hot minute since I've casted some StarCraft. But that's okay. I'm a little rusty, but we'll get over it. So, over here in the right middle side, we have our Protoss player with a fairly sick name. It's CrasT. Is that something? No, it's not. I thought it was like something backwards. Maybe it's like an anagram for something. Anyway, in the left middle side, we have JonFurniss, our blue Zerg player. That is a fairly legit name. I dig it. So this is an interesting map. Bridgehead is very similar to a lot of Brood War maps, especially with these two ramps. These are very reminiscent of Brood War-esque maps, as well as the layout of the first three bases, as well as to a certain extent the fourth base. It kind of reminds me of Fighting Spirit, or what's it called? I don't know. Two workers here awkwardly bumping into each other. I hate when that happens, when I slap my head into the beautiful little claws there of that drone. Protoss player will get in, and we'll see that it is not an early pool, and then we'll immediately go into the natural base to try and block that up. This looks like a hatch first, but unfortunately there is a pylon there. No hatch for you. He could take it at the third base, as this is pretty safe for the Protoss player, or I mean for the Zerg player, since he will be taking his bases in such quick succession. Let me adjust the volume here, increase that. Sorry about that. A little drone on probe action here. Ooh, our Protoss player is going for a second pylon wall. No base for this Zerg. He has started his spawning pool though, so he should be in a position where he can kill these pretty soon. It's actually worth it to pull a couple of drones to kill the pylons. I think it's 4 drones will kill a pylon pretty quickly, so I think it's worth it to do that. But it looks like he's going for fast speed here. Oh wait, never mind. Whoa, totally wrong. Oh, okay, yeah, he built an extractor over here, but he's actually just going for the hatch. The forge has finished up now for our Protoss player. There is no gateway, and he's got a bunch of money, but unfortunately, there's no gateway. He does have cannons outside the base of the Zerg player, so we could see some pretty interesting stuff here. If Zerglings try and pop out of the main, they're going to have a pretty bad time. Looks like they're just more focused here now on bringing down this pylon. Probes have been pulled to take care of the hatchery. This is actually too few probes. This is only 6 probes. You need 8 to kill a hatchery before it finishes. It's actually 8 is a little too many, but because it was already, like, because you have to pull probes to it, it is 8. If you have 7 probes there, the moment the hatchery starts, it will kill it in time. Looks like 6 will just... Okay, he's pulled a few more now. This is a little too many. This is a bit too much of a commitment. But he does need to kill this hatch before it finishes, because any Zerglings, any creep that gets out will be a big, big problem. Zerglings have now found the cannon. They try to bring it down, but unfortunately 4 Zerglings is not quite enough. Now these probes are actually... Okay, they got a pretty sick surround on that drone, but I don't know if that was worth it. You should probably get those back to mining fairly soon. Both players have started up their expansions now, actually at a relatively similar time to the, where they would be had they started them without any harass. I mean, relative to each other at least. The Nexus is about 20 to 30 seconds behind the hatch, which is normal. Macro hatch going down for a Zerg player, as well as a Roach Warren. It looks like he's probably going to be going into Fast Lair, and then Roach Hydra. The Roaches will deal with this cannon eventually. I don't know. He could even pull the Roaches around, take a few shots, and then just kill off the pylon. But dealing with cannons with Zerglings is never going to be very cost efficient. So we have our Protoss player throwing down his Cybernetics core, or well, finishing his Cybernetics core. He's already got a Zealot. His wall off is complete. I'm interested to see what unit he goes for first here, because that kind of decides the pace of the rest of the game. You can go for a sentry, and that generally indicates third base. Well, not necessarily like third base, but it's more of a defensive option. Alright, he does throw down the robo, so it looks like he's going for some sort of 2-base or 3-base all in. Second cannon finishes up here, actually. Very strange play. And while that will help to a certain extent in delaying the third base, I'm not sure that sort of commitment is worth it, especially considering his probe count. It's actually very far ahead of the Zerg players. I'm actually very surprised here. Even with the macro hatch and 3 queens, he's very, very behind in the worker count. But I'm sure he'll catch up sooner or later. It's not completely unheard of after a failed proxy hatch for drone count to be a little bit low. So it's no big deal. We actually have probes here killing the creep spread. This is amazing. That's actually like such a good use of this probe. This probe is more than paid for itself. Absolutely amazing. So we will have an immortal on the way immediately here, and a handful of gateways going down as well. This looks to be a 2-base push, and if that is the case, he'll throw down a handful more gateways, but actually it looks like he's going for the Nexus here with this probe moving out. So maybe it's some sort of 3-base immortal all-in, which is a little bit more uncommon, but still could be the case. I don't foresee this going into Colossus play, because Colossus play is very uncommon right now. Double robo! Okay, I may be completely wrong. If he goes double robo here, we could be in for a fun little bit of time. Double robo Colossus all-ins are super cool. But, as I was saying before, it's a little bit too late for Blink play to really be as effective as it could be. We do have the roaches here breaking down the back rocks. I don't think the Protoss player actually sees this. No, he doesn't. He has no pylon at these rocks, so these are going to get broken down without any sort of retaliation here. Third base does go down for our Zerg player, but it's actually around the same timing as the Nexus. So the Zerg player, he is very consistently behind on the worker count. He's very consistently behind on the base count, because you should be about 1 base ahead of your opponent. Roaches do come in, start sniping off workers here. That's 2 down so far. We'll see how many he gets. Not quite 3 yet. Alright, he will start sniping pylons though, so this could get pretty hairy for the Protoss player if he's not able to warp in any units. He's actually locked in here, has to kill his own gateway to get over to the other side of his base. Couple Zerglings coming in, immediately getting wrecked by Immortals and Zealots and Stalkers. This looks like it's going to be a very close hold here by our Protoss player. One Immortal immediately going down, the other one soon to follow. Oh, no, the focus fire isn't quite there, and the DPS is far too much. Third Immortal walking up, able to provide enough damage, but a bunch of Zerglings heading over to this natural location now. And this looks like not enough units to hold this. There's no Mothership Core for whatever reason, and there's no Zealots to stop these Zerglings. So these Stalkers are going to take a lot of damage and not deal a whole lot. And these Immortals, too, aren't very good against Zerglings. Looks like the Zerglings are going to head over to the third base location. There's not a whole lot here, only 1 cannon and a whole bunch of workers. Now, Stalkers are very bad against Zerglings. They do 10 damage, if I'm not mistaken, without upgrades to the light units, or any unit that's not armored, I should say. Zerglings have 35 HP. That's a 4-shot on a Zergling, which is far too much, considering a Zealot 2 shots with 1 extra upgrade, or 3 shots with 1. Zealots being warped in, but it's worth it to keep in mind that these are slow lings. I believe they've only gotten 1 worker so far, actually. Zergling's just getting speed now, but there are already units here. He's forced to back up. This 1 rogue Stalker. The Zealots will try and move over to the natural base. There is a wall there, though. Actually, they're just scooting over here. They'll probably assault the natural base soon enough. If we look at the worker counts, it's 55 to 54, so it's evened up. But keep in mind that the Zerg player should be ahead 1 base or ahead by a significant margin of drones. He has thrown down his 4th base now, but he's still a reasonable amount behind. Zealots being worked in here, getting kind of choked up in this pylon wall, but will be able to push back those Zerglings. That is 1 gateway and a cannon down, unfortunately, but the double robo production and the amount of gateways he has so far will be sufficient. Now the Zerg player is floating a lot of resources, despite his macro hatch and plenty of queens. The queens are holding a lot of energy, so it looks like our Zerg player isn't quite keeping up on his injects, which is a little bit unfortunate for him, as he could have a significantly higher unit count with how much resources he has right now. Both players opting not to go for upgrades yet so far. Okay, we do have upgrades on the way now, which is good. Okay, he actually does have +1 attack. Look at the immortal count though, double immortal production. 6 immortals on the field right now. Unfortunately for him, it is Ling Hydra, but immortals still pump out an insane amount of DPS. It's just they're more efficient against other units because they don't tank very well against immortals, or against zealots or hydralisks. We do see this small Zerg ball encroaching upon the 3rd base, but there's no way this gets anything done against 4 sentries, 6 immortals, 8 stalkers, and like 3 zealots here. Big gateway wall going down at the 3rd base, keeping these cannons safe and also creating a smaller choke point there so that the force fields are more efficient. More hydras are walking on up, more hydras in production as well. Double upgrades on the way with these 2 evo chambers, but this ball is nowhere near able to contest this ball. Handful of Zerglings, handful of hydras will not contest force fields, and 8 immortals. My god. 3 more gateways about to finish up here for our Protoss player though. So his production will start to ramp up relatively shortly. Zerglings starting to move in now. Force fields have gone down. 1 force field enough to block off this area. The Hydralisks are focusing down a cannon. Don't even get it. Lots and lots of damage taken on these Hydras. This one has 3 HP. What a baller. He has stories to tell. There's no saturation yet on this 4th base, which is a small problem here, because as we've seen so far, by the resources count, the income count, there is not a whole lot in terms of economic advantage here for our Zerg player. My god, 10 immortals. When is this going to stop? He's got 2 more in production. Alright, we have triple forge upgrades here. I haven't seen this in a really long time. Triple forge upgrades are actually kind of legit. 4th base going down here for our Protoss player, as well as a bunch more cannons and a bunch more gateways. Now, triple forge upgrades are super legit because shield upgrades are actually really good, especially on stalkers and zealots. But you don't see it too often because shield upgrades are really expensive. Lately, players have been experimenting with shield upgrades on Stalker Sentry styles because you generally only want to take shield damage on your Stalkers and then blink them back. An insane ball of Hydralisks here moving out into the natural base of our Protoss player, and he will move his army in to contest that, but there is a huge choke up here. The Immortals kind of walking all over each other. Units are starting to stream in now just as the Hydralisks are breaking through the wall. This is a very nice choke point for the Protoss player to engage. He will... Oh, not even a single unit being picked off there by these 2 force fields. Protoss player making a bit of a mistake moving forward into that insane concave by the Zerg player. I believe Hydra's speed is done now. These guys look pretty quick. Fairly speedy. Unfortunate... Okay, yeah, that's totally done. These guys are slithering along at the speed of light. Protoss army is not moving to contest this though. He does not have eyes on the Hydralisk army. So he scoots out a probe, does spot the Hydralisks, and will start moving his army around. There is overlords to spot this though. He might have seen it. It would have just barely been on the minimap. Even more Hydras on the way. This guy is severely taking advantage of the fact that there is absolutely no AoE in this army right now. 4th base has finished up now for our Protoss player on equal bases with the Zerg player. Giant concave here by the Zerg player. Absolutely ridiculous concave. There is no engaging into that. Don't even try it, sir. And Storm is about to finish up, but if we look at the units count, he actually doesn't have any High Templar, and generally around halfway, with Storm being done, you want to build a couple of High Templar so that they'll have 1 or 2 Storms by the time that Storm finishes, especially against this high amount of Hydralisks. There are no Colossus on the field, there is no Colossus tech, nothing like that, so he will have to rely on these Storms to deal with this giant Hydra ball. Honestly, though, I think this army by itself could probably take the Hydras with good force fields. Hydras are positioning on the map, scooting around, Scooty Rooty Tooty. About to contest this 4th base here. Our Protoss player will need to contest. He does not have any energy on these High Templar 4 Storms. He has a 8 High Templar, but it's going to be a while before they have the energy for that. Zerg player throws down a 6th base. Has plenty of drones mining now. He has lots and lots of minerals and gas in the bank. Protoss player moving in to contest this will lose the 4th base. Still no storms. Okay, Storm has just now gotten enough energy. Huge storms going down on the Hydralisks now. Lots and lots of damage on these puppies. Zerg player will choose to engage with a superior concave here. Lots of storms going down there. He is forced to retreat, and he's trading extremely inefficiently. Forced to retreat, and the Stalkers and Immortals will not be able to keep up. Immortals are fairly slow, and High Templar take just about 6,000 years to get across the map. So, after that battle, seems the Protoss player is marginally ahead in the units lost, but I think he's very, very ahead in tech right now. His tech is far superior, his units are far superior, and I think like the Zerg player is going to have an extremely hard time trading with this, even with the new Zergling count. The Zerglings will trip up the Stalkers a lot, because as I said before, it's a 4-shot on Zerglings. He's going to have a very hard time breaking through this. He does have 2-2-2 done versus the 2-1 of the Zerg player. Will move. Ooh, huge storms there on the Hydralisks. Very big mistake, move commanding the Hydralisks on top of the units. Very, very low HP, about 2 HP on the majority of the Hydralisks here. Will start to pick off a lot of High Templar, couple of Archons being made, but the Zealots start to get on top of the Hydralisks. Immortals starting to trade with them too, and Immortals don't trade super well with Hydralisks, but when they all only have about 2 HP, there's not a whole lot they can do. Overall, a huge win by our Protoss player, now about 3,000 resources ahead in the resources lost. The Zerg player is starting to tap into his bank now, so he's starting to kind of run out of money, which I know it's weird to say that with 1k in the bank, but he is actually semi-running out of resources now. For all intents and purposes. He's kind of running out of Remax potential, which is a little bit unfortunate for him, because if he takes another bad engagement, that could spell the end of the game. Ultralisks on the way. These are kind of an interesting option, considering there's still 6 Immortals on the ground, and double Robo production. I would have liked to see Broodlords more, considering there's not even a Stargate yet, and no Blink. Zerglings and Hydralisks moving on into the natural here, taking out pylons, gateways, and probes. Will move in, try and take down the Twilight Council. Stalkers kind of body blocking that a little bit. Storms will go down there on the Zerglings, take out a lot of them, and he will try and focus down the Twilight Council. Huge storms going down on the Hydralisks though, bunch of damage being dealt, and the Hydralisks are backed into this corner now. Nowhere for them to run, nowhere for them to hide, and they will end up falling. Unfortunately for our Zerg player, this looks like the end. There are not a whole lot of units left. There is the muted Remax, so he has a chance. But is that chance enough? There are 9 High Templar here, all of them fairly close to Storm energy, about 10-12 energy away. Lots of Zerglings too, and it's like a Zergling Ultralisk Remax with Mutas mixed in too, and there's just not enough focus on one unit. I think if he had spent the gas that he spent on Ultralisks, because it's about what, 200-300 gas for each Ultralisk? I actually can't remember. I feel like a fool now. But that's what, like 9 more Mutalisks? Like that'd be huge. Instead of like about 16 Mutas here, he'd have about 26. He does move in here. Protoss player is out of position, and he will start sniping bases, sniping probes. Huge damage going down on these probes. Super scary position for our Protoss player. Looking to snipe down the Templar archives. Will get it. Lots of probes sitting here. Could have sniped a few of those, but will choose to back up now that the scary High Templar are sitting there. Mutas will start focusing down this base, but this is a very scary position. Storms could go down on the on the Mutalisks. Will go down, bruising the Hydralisks a little bit, but these will heal up in time. They have an insane regen rate, very high, and it looks like he's taking advantage of the Sim City of the Protoss here, because the Protoss actually takes like a solid minute to get through his own base here because of all of the choke points. Ultralisks and Zerglings assaulting the 4th base now. Ultralisks trading very well with the cannons here, able to pressure this base very heavily, and Mutas moving into the natural in the meantime, drawing the Protoss player apart, trying to do the best he can to keep the Protoss player on his toes. The Mutas are moving into the main base, but Immortals are able to take care of the Ultralisks and the meager Hydralisk force. Now, the Zerg player is on top of the production now. We'll be taking out cannons and probably forges. We'll cancel this upgrade over halfway through, though. That is very sad for our Protoss player. Looks to be focusing down pylons. Maybe could go for the Robo. Oh no, there's an Archon there. It's forced to back up. But he does have a very big advantage in mobility, considering the SimCity of our Protoss player. It's very difficult for the Protoss player to get through his base right now. Will move on top of the Archon. Huge storm there on the Mutalisks. They're all a little bit bruised, so he's going to have to wait a little bit until he moves in again. Lots and lots of bases going down for our Zerg player. It looks like he's just trying to starve out the Protoss. He does have Greater Spire, as well as more upgrades on the way for air units. We'll maybe go for Broodlords here, but at the very least he has the capability for it. Lots more Archons being made. A couple more Zealots too. Looks like he's going to try his best to trade with the Mutalisk army without going Stargate. This is going to be very dangerous though, because as we can see, it's always going to be the situation where he runs in and defends one base and then the other base gets assaulted. A lot of the production is down here for our Protoss player, not able to produce out of his second Robo. Mutalisks will move in, start picking off pylons, gateways, robotics facilities, everything in the world. 4th base about to die here, no probes left on it, and the income from our Protoss player is virtually nothing. He's got no gas and a bunch of minerals, and I can't see him ever being able to move out on the map, because what happens when he moves out on the map? He loses his whole base. He can't even build a pylon anywhere on the map because his creep spread has actually been fairly good. So the possibility of a base trade isn't really there. He could go for it, but the Mutalisk could kill his whole base before the Protoss player is able to kill all of these bases with the Zergs. Excuse me. Huge Mutaflock scooting down into the natural base. No base has been rebuilt here, because with the mineral count, it probably wouldn't be worth it. It might be, because there's more than 400 minerals here, but it's not really worth it. Huge swell of Zerglings moving into the 4th base, and this is exactly what I said. Protoss player YOLOs across the map, and Mutalisks move in, deal the damage. Zerglings on the 4th base, taking out all of these gateways, all of the Robos. There is nothing left for our Protoss player except this little army across the map. There are 39 probes here, kind of sitting at the 3rd base. Needs to get those moving now before the Zerglings get wind of them, but they already have, unfortunately, for our Protoss player. Protoss will snipe down hatcheries faster than anything I've ever seen before, because 6 Immortals are really strong. I'm also pretty sure that all Zerg buildings count as biological, so Archons do a good 40 damage a shot to those. We'll get a pylon down now, and he will be able to sort of turtle up near that pylon, and this Mutaflock may not be able to trade with this. There's a solid, like, what is this, 8 Archons here in this army. A lot of Stalkers, no High Templar, but Archons with the splash damage, with the high damage values, it's going to be very hard for them to trade with it. There is only one pylon here, and the Zerg player has spotted it. Protoss needs to be careful. This one pylon, he needs to go back and stop these Mutas from killing this. It doesn't look like he's coming back. Pylon goes down, and that will be it for CrasT. Unfortunately, Just too many mutas, not enough other stuff. He traded well in the early game. He had enough to beat the Hydras, he had enough to beat the Ultra Transition, but he was stubborn. He kept on Archon High Templar tech for against the Mutalisks, and that leads to a very big problem with multi-prong harass, and that's the exact problem we saw. He wasn't able to transfer between the bases fast enough like you would have been able to with Phoenix, and that led to his downfall. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on Twitch and Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, like the video if you did enjoy it. If you have any feedback, comments, criticisms, please be sure to private message them to me or comment in the comment section below. I'll catch you guys next time, and thanks so much again for tuning in.